Hello there and welcome to one of the hottest recorded days in British history. Perfect for baking my shiny dome and showing you this car that I am so excited about getting behind the wheel of. This is Honda's very first ground up EV, the E. Right, styling time. Now, I would describe this as retro modern in the way that Honda have gone with this. Because if you take the whole design, when you look at it, it's actually got real hints of the original Civic from the 70s and even the Mark I Golf. It's got very similar look and proportions to the sort of slightly stubby nose and curved rear on it. And yet it is a completely modern looking design as well. I really think they have knocked it out of the park with this car. Round the front, let's start off. Very noticeable, big black, gloss black graphic around the front. We've got these LED headlights here, lots of funky graphics that do spinny things when you turn it on as usual. Up here, very noticeable on the bonnet. This is where your charging port is. Now, there's a little camera in the front here and there's even a button there to open that if you want. You can also open it from inside the car and from the key as well. As you can see, it's a very, very stubby nose. Now that's because Honda are trying to keep the car interior space as big as possible for the wheelbase. Possible because this is a ground up EV design. That means there's no petrol engine has ever even been considered to go near this car, unlike, say, the Mini Electric, which is one of these key rivals. Those are mirrors. Now, people who have seen the Audi e-tron will have seen those before, but these are still pretty spectacular to see on a small car like this, at this price point, and they work fantastically well. So around here we have got the 17-inch alloys. Now, I'm not usually a fan of black alloys, I've said that before. These have got these little machined bits on them though, which just about save them for me. These are 17-inch on this advanced model. They are a very similar design, but 16-inch on the lesser model. So as you go down here past those lovely wing mirror cameras, you follow this line all the way down and you get this beautiful hockey stick. Now, because it's got this gloss black roof as well, when you stand back and look at the side of this thing, you notice it is this one slab of blue with this beautiful kick up the side of here. I just think there's so many lovely little clever design bits on this car, even down to the, the doors, which go completely flush for the handles, which obviously helps with aerodynamics and all that kind of stuff, as do these. Apparently these add a lot of mileage to the range because they don't cause so much drag. Fantastic. Okay, round the back of the E, we've got a lovely gloss black spoiler and the little Honda E badge there. Now, you may notice on the back here, there is a gloss black graphic, very much like the one at the front. Now that is obviously meant to be there. It's very much meant to mirror what you've got at the front. So you've got the Honda badge, you've got a little lozenge shape, you have almost identical shaped lights. These obviously are red, they're white. Even down to a little reflector here, which is in the same place as the fog lights on the front. Right, let's talk tech, because that is what these sort of cars are all about. At the back here, rear wheels, above there, we have a 151 brake horsepower motor. That powers just the rear wheels. It's got 315 Newton meters of torque, which is quite a lot of torque for a small car, I'll have you know. And that is, of course, being an EV, available from 0 RPM. Great for launching off the line. Now that powers the rear wheels only. Slightly ahead of that, we have the battery pack, which sits under the rear seats and slightly under the front seats as well. So that goes across the car in about that sort of location. That is a 35.5 kilowatt hour battery pack. That is not huge, I will say that now. It leaves a WLTP range of about 125 to 135 miles. What it does mean is, as this can be rapid charged up to your normal 50 kilowatt chargers, you can go from 0 to an 80% charge in around about half an hour. That's fine. You can go grab a coffee at a service station, have a coffee and read a magazine, half an hour, and you've got realistically another 80 to 85 miles. Now, it states 125 miles to 135 miles range. I've been driving this thing for about a week now, and it's been non-stop 30-degree temperatures the whole time. Still is, as you can tell by the fact that I'm sweating so much. But what that means is that the AC has been on fully basically for the whole week, and it's been doing a lot of battery cooling. So it's a massive drain on the car, and I've been getting a realistic 100 miles to every single charge. Is that enough? Yes, it's a town car, okay? But you know now that with those rapid chargers, you can go that extra 80-85 miles on a rapid charge should you need to.
Have to say a huge thanks to BOTB for making these videos possible. They give away someone's dream car twice a week, and you can choose from nearly 200 cars to play for. Tickets start from just 85p, and you can even add £20,000 cash and fuel for a year.
Because the front wheels aren't doing anything else other than steering, it has a party piece. Now, this means they can turn to a frankly ridiculous degree, these wheels, and it has a 4.3 metre turning circle. That is really, really small. In fact, it's so small, you can't really tell until I show you what it's like. So it looks like this. See, that is really small. It means that you can basically drive down a normal road and just do a U-turn without doing 3-point turns. 3-point turns are a thing of the past with the Honda E. So, to start with, it's just screens a go-go in here. Starting out, we have right in front of the driver here, you have your typical, now typical anyway, digital display, miles per hour, tells you what gear you're in, I mean park, reverse, that sort of thing, how much charge you've got left, whether you're using power or charge, all that sort of thing. Very simple display, very nice, very clear. On the right and left, you have got the displays for the mirrors, which are obviously the little cameras on the outside. These are just fantastic. They are in a much better place than they are on some other cars that have these. Right here, there are two 12.3 inch displays. It is just massive. It's a wall of screen. When you plug into CarPlay, or you have CarPlay running, which this has obviously got, that is on a nice big screen right here, and you've got your settings and option buttons on the right here. That's more than you get in most cars, and it's right there. I just don't really see what that extra 12.3 inch display does, other than gives the passenger something to fiddle with. To keep the aesthetic of the dash and this level here, which goes around and melds into those other two screens, I didn't know what it could be for, but cameraman Sean suggested earlier it could be extra storage with a flap in there. Perfect. Then you can just put your phone or something in there. That would be great. You've got this shelf type thing here, which has got volume, audio, and dimming and home button there, and your parking options. This holds another function for me because it just gives you somewhere that you can just rest your thumb or your palm when you're trying to do things on the touchscreen. Steering wheel, lovely, 2-spoke. Buttons, you've got stereo controls on the left and your cruise control settings on the right. Heated steering wheel button there because this is the advanced model. And you have got paddles on the back here. Now obviously there's no gears in this car. This controls the amount of regenerative braking that the car has. Big panoramic sunroofy type thing here. Lovely, lets a lot of light in. Going to close it again because it's even hotter with it open. Down here we have the center driving console, I would call it. You've got your park, reverse, neutral, drive, your single pedal button, parking brake, brake hold, and your normal to sport drive mode button are all in there, along with a cup holder. Behind that you've got some more storage as well. Down here you have your climate control. You've got your nice proper dials. I like a dial. Dials there for it and all the buttons across there. On each corner you have got your heated seat button. Now, as I've mentioned many times, I'm quite a tall person and I drive like this, driving the car. My knee, about 20 times this week, literally all it takes is a tiniest brush across that button and the flipping heated seat comes on. So I've been driving around in 35-degree heat and all of a sudden I feel I've got the most incredibly hot bottom in the entire world. And it's because the flipping heated seat has come on again. It is really irritating, and I've been driving around with people in the passenger seat and they suddenly start complaining that they've got a really hot backside as well. And it's so easy to just brush your leg across it. It's a very sensitive button. I think they either need to change where it is or just make it a bit less sensitive. Pointing out as well, down here we have a whole barrage of connection options. There's a proper 3-pin plug down here, an actual 3-pin plug with a HDMI socket below it. There's also lots of USBs and normal cigarette output type things there. Down there, all those connection points, there's a little flap which is perfect for putting your phone in. It's got wireless CarPlay. So you get in the car and your phone is, say, in your pocket and it just wirelessly connects to CarPlay. Absolutely brilliant, fantastic. There's nowhere for wireless charging in this car. I find that a bit odd. They could have it in there, or if they found a point down here, you could have it in here as well. I find it really odd to not have wireless charging when you don't have to connect your phone to the car via a wire in any way. I find that a bit odd, a bit of an omission for me. Final point in this interior for me, in the front, is this rear view mirror here. Now, currently I've just got it as a normal rear view mirror. You can see perfectly well out the back, absolutely fine. If I flip this here and angle it back down again, it is now a full LCD screen, which is linked to a camera at the back. So if you had 3 people sitting abreast in the back here, you wouldn't be able to see a damn thing out the rear window. And so this enables you to see out of the rear window perfectly well. Sort of. If you're driving around town, fine, perfect. Because generally you're looking quite close to yourself. You know, there's a car in front, there's a car there, there's a car there. You're staring 100 meters away is your focal point, or even 70, 60 meters away is your focal point. And you're having to pull focus back to this to really focus on the screen, because it's single depth of field right here. You're having to change your focus the whole time. And I found on a motorway, even just after half an hour, that was actually quite tiring. And I actually just flicked it back and went back to having the normal screen on there. Right, in the back of this Honda E, yeah, the usual TIM test. Now, not faring that well, I'm afraid. As always, just as a disclaimer, I'm 6'3", and so this is a small car. It was never going to be brilliant in the back here, mainly because being an EV, the floor is higher. As you can see, the angle of my legs is really quite high, but my knees aren't being pushed hard into the back of this seat. I'm sure as a driver in front, you wouldn't feel it, and I would happily sit here for a decent length journey. Decent enough headroom for me, I suppose. If I had an exciting haircut, it might be brushing against the headlining. I don't seem to whack my head against this side bit here, though, which if I was going down a bumpy lane, that might hurt. In terms of the design and things in here, it carries through, obviously, from the front, this lovely grey, mottled grey seat fabric, which I genuinely think looks really good. You've got the lovely brown stitching here, which matches to the brown seat belts, which are here. Love it, I really do. Practicality wise, they've really thought this through as well. You've got ISOFIX points obviously on the back seats, but they're covered up by a little flap. So you miss out, you don't see that horrible black plastic or grey plastic when you don't need to. There's a map pocket behind each seat and a nice big door bin here for a big drinks bottle here. And there's a couple of USB points down there as well for charging stuff. On each side here, you've got a little button which you press, which illuminates these lovely 2 lights on each side there. It's just really, really well thought out. And yeah, I absolutely love the design of this thing. So, boot space. As I mentioned earlier, the motor is right under there at the back and it's rear-wheel drive, so boot space is severely impacted by that, I would say. You'd normally expect to go into a load and then it drop down. That isn't there. So what you're left with is a pretty tiny boot. The actual boot volume is 171 litres, which is small. I mean, you can get your shopping in here, but that's going to be pretty much it. It improves quite a lot when you put the seats down, because there's quite a lot of space in the back, as I showed earlier. It goes from 170 to 570 litres. So frankly, it is practical, possibly if you need it to be, by folding the seats down. There's no split on the rear seats. They only fold as one unit though. So what is the Honda E like to drive? Well, pretty much like most other EVs around at the moment. Comfortable and quiet. I mean, I genuinely think that people don't like EVs who haven't driven them. When you get to drive one, you realise just how lovely these things are to drive as a daily proposition. Now, yes, they're never going to be as fun as a normal car if you're talking about sports cars and things, because they don't have the noise. But if you're just driving a car around like I am today, it is so quiet and so smooth to drive. This is the future. You see, as I mentioned with all the technical stuff, the batteries are all set under the floor here, and they're set below the seating position. You've got the motors in the back. Now what that actually means is 50-50 weight distribution. And all the weight is very low, so there's a very low centre of gravity. All that means that this thing handles really well. It is not stiffly sprung though, not in the slightest. It feels nimble and taut, yet you still get on the road and it feels comfy and supple, which is a very, very difficult thing to do. Something that generally only Jaguar have been able to do that in the past, but this has got 17-inch wheels with a decent bit of rubber on them as well, so you get a decent ride quality. So a quick note on performance. Now obviously this isn't the kind of thing you need to really worry about performance being a town car, but being an EV, you've got that instant torque. So here I am, I'm doing 25 miles an hour-ish now. If you put your foot down into sport mode, now this really does take off. That is quick. That is just as quick as it would be in any petrol or diesel driven 150 horsepower car. There's no difference there at all. I mean, I would say this is all the performance that you would need in a city or town car. Firstly, I'm going to talk about these wing mirrors. Now, obviously they are actually wing mirrors, are not the thing. These are wing cameras, as you've seen outside, the little stubby things down there, and you have the screen down here and over the side there. They are the clearest I have seen before. Here, these are in a really, really good place. They are just where you want them to be for your line of sight, where you would expect there to be a wing mirror. So big tick on that. What isn't a big tick for me is the fact that they haven't got the depth of field that I would expect. You can angle them down, so there's obviously that depth of field is there, but for instance when you're reversing and things, I want to be able to see down to the rear wheel, which you can just about do by lifting up like that when you've got a normal car. Now of course this thing's got cameras up the wazoo, there's cameras everywhere, surround view and all that kind of thing, so you can see all of that much better on the screen. So I think it's actually more of a problem with me being a Luddite and being someone who doesn't embrace cameras fully. If you embrace all these systems it's got here and watch the massive surround top-down view cameras and things, brilliant, and you can see where you are. I just would like to see a bit more on the screen. Now one feature that the E, that's always a bit strange to say, the E shares with, I think it's the new Nissan Leaf, is the option for basically single pedal driving. Now it's not something you have to do. There's a button down here that you can press, and what this means is it will, using regenerative braking and the car's brakes as well, it will brake when you just lift off the accelerator pedal. Now when you're just cruising along at say 35 miles an hour now, if you take your foot off, it will slow us down, 25, 24, and as you come to more to a stop, it brakes you more heavily. Now there's nothing behind us, so that was safe. And what it means is, it's just making your life easier. You don't even have to think 90% of the time, driving around in town, you don't even need to worry about pressing the brake pedal. I mean, you could drive along in this car with adaptive cruise control set to 30 miles an hour, and all you have to do is occasionally just go, accelerate, It's driving in its simplest form, I think. But I very much like this single pedal arrangement, because what it does as well is gives you a lot more regenerative braking than you would normally have using the brakes. Regenerative braking gives you more range, which is very, very important. So, how to summarise the Honda E? Well, as ever with a car like this, you have to think about its rivals, and the only real rival for this car, as I see it, is the Mini Electric. Now, I've driven the Mini Electric, thought it was fantastic. They're broadly the same sort of price. This is about £32,000 before the government grant, and they're, you know, broadly similar, not very large batteries, small range, city car, premium product. It's up to you, choose which one you like. I would go for this, the Honda E. For me, it's all about the design. I love the exterior, I love the interior more than anything. I think it's absolutely stunning. And I want to have one of these in my life. So there you go, that's the end of that. Now, as ever, I've got to say huge thanks again to BOTB.com. They give away someone's dream car, not once, but twice a week. So please check them out. And please check out the rest of our videos. Subscribe, like, all that stuff, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.